This Sunday, we're continuing the start of the 2022 NFL season with Week 1 action here, the Sunday slate of games having the majority of the contests that will be played. And in this episode, what I'm going to be doing is breaking down 5 wide receivers that you need to keep your eye on here. These are very interesting wide receivers for a variety of reasons. We're going to, talk about that stuff in today's video, of course, but this is going to have a lot to do with evaluating and being able to assess them as the year progresses here, and some key things that I'm keeping my eyes on for that you can check out this coming Sunday as well. So if you're new around here, make sure to drop down, smash that like button, subscribe to the SFS channel here, and turn the bell on so you're never late for a new piece of content. I'm posting multiple fantasy videos every single day of the week here on YouTube, as well as our other platforms, which you can check out in the link or in the description. There's links in the description of today's episode. So go check that stuff out, you guys. Let's dive into our first must-watch player here for Week 1. One thing I do want to preface before we start today's episode is that this is being recorded before Thursday Night Football, but it'll be posted after Thursday night. So I don't have any analysis for that game because, like I just said, this video is being recorded just like an hour or so ahead of that contest. So all these players are in the Sunday or Monday night slates. Just keep that in mind. So the first player I want to talk about in this episode is A.J. Brown. I've had my, mixed feelings and negative opinions about A.J. Brown's fantasy stock throughout this offseason, but he does have an opportunity for me to have him trending up my rankings and get a little bit more positivity coming from myself here in future videos this season. What I'm going to be paying the majority of my attention to is the play of Jalen Hurts here. So yes, we are focusing on A.J. Brown, but he plays a dependent position. The wide receiver position is incredibly dependent on how the quarterback is able to provide passing opportunities for them. So my main concern with A.J. Brown is transitioning from an offense in Tennessee where he had to be super efficient, but he showed us over a 3-year body of work he was capable of doing that under Ryan Tannehill, to now you're transitioning to arguably a worse quarterback in terms of passing downfield. Ryan Tannehill is no elite passer, but what he was very good off of the play-action pass game. And now you're asking him in an offense that was the number 1 rushing offense in the league. They rushed the football at a higher rate last season than the Tennessee Titans did, to do the exact same thing with, again, arguably worse quarterback play in terms of downfield passing. So for me, this is going to be all about Jalen Hurts. I want to see what types of passes are heading A.J. Brown's direction. Is he going to be asked yet again this year to produce in an efficient manner on a low volume of targets and go above and beyond with what he does after the catch? Or, and this is where I can start to have some more positivity towards A.J. Brown, are they going to give him some more options at the line of scrimmage? Are they going to use him more? And I don't mean to, draw a direct comparison here to Deebo Samuel, but can they do some of those wide back rolls with him where you get him the football out in space in short and underneath situations, which gets you that easy opportunity, increases and spikes that volume on a per week basis, and opens the door for other methods of yardage and touchdown creation that don't have to be deep shots downfield? Because again, I do have my question marks and concerns as it relates to Jalen Hurts and obviously this offense as a whole for this season. One last closing remark on A.J. Brown here before I move into my second situation of the video is that I love Jalen Hurts as a fantasy quarterback. I have nothing against him. I think he's going to be fantastic and has QB1 overall upside. I think the addition of A.J. Brown does very positive things for Jalen Hurts' stock, but that usage is so important to me because I don't want to have a guy who is my top 3-round selection here, a guy you're drafting as a wide receiver 1 overall, to be a player that's boom or bust and has inconsistencies that aren't his own problem. They're coming from somewhere else. So the things that are controllable, A.J. Brown's a dang good player. After the catch, he's a menace. That's how he was able to be so efficient in Tennessee. But he's going to have to do that same stuff in Philadelphia, and it might be even a little bit harder. So those are my concerns. Those are the things I'm watching. I'll be paying very close to our attention. The analytics might not come out right away at the top of next week, but I will be paying attention to how the ball's coming out of Jalen Hurts' hands, not only to A.J. Brown, but to other players in this offense. Even if A.J. has a really good week, I'll be looking at his overall passing numbers, putting some context behind that with game scripts. There's a lot of stuff at play here, but it's a situation I'm very interested in. So this is actually a double-edged sword here. The next player up is Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos. They're traveling to play the Seattle Seahawks here. I am also keeping my eye very closely on Jeudy. It's a joint situation here. We're only going to put one player up on the board, but just know I'm talking Jeudy and Courtland Sutton for this week. So the thing that we all want to know is who is going to be the wide receiver 1 in Denver. That question may not be able to be answered definitively here in week 1, but it it can start to kind of paint the picture and give us some cases to be made for one player or the other. I think that on paper, and something that we've all had kind of a interesting time dealing with throughout the offseason, is that if you look back on the numbers between the games that Courtland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy played together last season, Jerry Jeudy was the clear alpha receiver. He had more targets, he had more yards, and just more production overall than Courtland Sutton had in the games that they played together. This is not a total body of work that I'm talking about here. In the games they played together in the 2021 season, Jerry Jeudy was the alpha. What we don't know, though, and what really matters more than that, is Russell Wilson's opinion. The reports right now are major, they've swung in a direction that has a heavy emphasis on favoring Courtland Sutton. He's been the wide receiver in Denver right now, receiving the hype. We saw Jerry Jeudy's late draft stock slip off a little bit here, and that's just kind of the situation that we have at Fold. However, if it were up to me, I like Jerry Jeudy more. I think he's a more complete and polished route runner. He's an awesome player, obviously a high first-round pick by the Denver Broncos in 2020, but that's just the thing. Doesn't matter what I think. It matters what Russell Wilson thinks. It doesn't matter what Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock thought last season. The one player that's making the decisions, that's pulling the strings for this offense, is Russell Wilson. So taking on his former team here against Seattle week 1, they've got a very advantageous matchup. I think they control that game, and obviously I think they walk away winners. But we'll start to at least get some answers, see what areas of the field each of these players are being targeted, how much the distribution is to one player or the other. I definitely think Russ could support a top 12 season for both of these players. He's done it in back-to-back years with Lockett and Metcalf in Seattle. I think he could do it again here in Denver. I think both of them at the end of the day will be very successful and have really great point totals in our lineups. However, again, we all want to know who the top option is going to be for this Denver Broncos roster. If you guys are enjoying today's video, make sure to smash that like button. It takes 2 seconds. It helps me out a ton here. Also, make sure to click that subscribe button and turn the bell on if you haven't done so already. And join the community here. Check out our videos. We're posting fantasy content like this numerous days a week here, multiple videos per day, long episodes here on YouTube. We've got TikToks, Twitter that I'm active on Game Day, our community Discord server, and other links in the description to my website, sizzlefantasy.com, and Underdog Fantasy, 2 of the best things you can take advantage of this season. Underdog's just a super fun platform to play some extra contests and get a little bit more of a sweat in with player prop bets and best ball drafts for main slate games or just individual matchups and primetime contests. And then when you sign up using code SFS, that is a link in the description of today's video as well. When you sign up using code SFS on Underdog, that gets you access to my website and all the paid functions on there for free through the end of this season, that being the Super Bowl. So through February, you get website access on sizzlefantasy.com for using that code. So Jaylen Waddle here, diving back into content. This is another, double header, if you will. Jaylen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. So this is also a very interesting matchup for me. I think I'm going to have to go back and really do some digging in this game, even after the fact, even after looking at the box score, watching some, TV broadcast film. I'm going to want to get my hands on some coaching film for this, and I'm going to want to really see what did Bill Belichick do in this matchup. That's my first, fascination with this situation, because I talked about this throughout the week. Typically, when he had a shutdown guy like J.C. Jackson or a Stephon Gilmore, he'll slap that guy on one of the top 2 threats from the other offense, and then he will double the number 2 option, or depending on what he wants to do in that given week. But this time around, I don't think the Pats have a clear, true lockdown number 1 corner. I don't think they have anyone that can hang man for man against Waddle or Tyreek Hill. I'm going to guess they play a lot of zone coverage and just don't want to get beat deep. But ultimately, it's the same situation as Denver here. Who emerges as the wide receiver 1? My money's on Tyreek Hill. I think consensus, and a lot of people have their money on Tyreek Hill as well. It just makes the most sense. I talked about this throughout the week as well. 5 draft picks given up to acquire him, a guy who they paid $120 million to over 4 years. It just, logic makes sense that Tyreek's going to be the number 1 for this team. But that leaves Jaylen Waddle hanging here, a guy whose ADP put him at the wide receiver 18 overall, so a fairly significant wide receiver 2 player in lineups this year. So I want to see if he can live up to that or not. This is a defense that schematically should give them some troubles this week. The personnel are not great in that defensive unit for the Pats, in my opinion at least. But I do think that, again, this is something that we need to keep our eye on. For me, I'm not going to, hang my hat on can Tua throw the deep ball or not. That's not something I'm overly worried about. If he can, great. That's a big plus. I know he had some nice metrics downfield last year, but it was a limited sample size. He didn't really attempt the deep ball that much. So for me, Jaylen Waddle, Can he maintain fantasy relevance on a consistent basis? That is my question mark. Or will he be a boomer bust option? If that's the case, I'm not loving him so much this year because I did love last season where you could get that dink and dunk roll going, get him a high volume of opportunities out in space and let him run because him and Tyreek are very similar players. They're lightning quick after the catch. We'll see how things play out here, though. Keep your eye on Jaylen Waddle and the dynamic of that Miami offense. Another team here, JuJu Smith-Schuster and the Kansas City Chiefs, that I am very interested in here is obviously their wide receiving core. You've got a matchup on the road at the desert this week against the Arizona Cardinals. Patrick Mahomes had a very interesting quote today where he said, "Sorry, fantasy owners, this isn't going to be a week-by-week thing. There will be a different player producing big numbers every single week." We'll see if that's the case, though. I think there's a very logical argument that can be made that, for one, Travis Kelce is going to get his work every single week. But second of all, I think that once he finds comfortability and dependability and knows he can trust another one of these players, that player is naturally going to see more targets head their direction. We'll see if that's JuJu Smith-Schuster or if that's Sky Moore who takes that leap forward early on in the season and really establishes themselves in this role. But what I want to find out is exactly what role is JuJu going to be playing here. He is obviously the safer bet to be the early season wide receiver producer for this team in terms of the top dog in that wide receiver core. However, we could see a guy like a Sky Moore, also another very versatile athlete who can line up outside or in the slot. We could see him get some work and do some major things. But for me, I think it's about versatility for JuJu. I think we could see him line up in the slot or out wide, just like I said for Sky Moore. He's got some nice size. He's fairly dangerous after the catch as well, so all things to think about with JuJu Smith-Schuster here in week 1. At the end of the day, I do think that JuJu is someone that has top 12 weekly upside at this position group, just the ceiling that comes along with being a potential top pass catcher in a Chiefs-led offense from Patrick Mahomes. But we'll have to see. What is his snap count percentage? What is his slot percentage, the amount of times he's running routes out of the slot? All kinds of stuff, and a lot of pieces of the puzzle that we have to evaluate here. So I'll be paying close attention to how this Chiefs offense lines up and obviously distributes their players here. And then finally, DJ Moore. Again, one more time, if you guys are enjoying today's episode, make sure to hit that like button and let me know your fantasy questions down in the comment section below. Anything last minute is fair game, so let that stuff fly. But for me, the big question with DJ Moore is, can Baker Mayfield bring him to the next level? Of course, we've seen DJ. We know he's a very good route runner. We know he's a very good playmaker. He's capable of doing some special things in a receiving core. But what we haven't seen from him so far is the ability to tap into an elite fantasy football ceiling. He has been more of a floor asset than I think a lot of people are willing to admit. He isn't someone who's going out there and scoring a high volume of touchdown passes. After all, heading into, what is this, year 5 now for DJ Moore. He was a first-round pick in 2018. So 18, 19, 21, and okay, yep. So did I do that right? 18, 19, 20, 21, 20. Yes, this is year 5. Holy cow. Bad math, guys. What trips me up is it's not simple subtraction. You have to account for the year they were drafting. So add 1 to that. Nonetheless, we look stupid now. That's fine. But DJ Moore has been a player that throughout his 5-year career, this is, again, entering into year 5, has never had more than 4 receiving touchdowns in a singular season. So when that's kind of your ceiling and your cap off for the wide receiver position, that's not too great. Now, I'm not expecting him to walk out here and score double-digit TDs, but even 6 to 8 touchdowns would give him enough juice for a guy who saw 162 targets head his direction last year. He can do some nice things. I'm not the biggest Baker Mayfield guy in the world. I say this every time I talk about DJ Moore because I think some people are too optimistic with his outlook for this season. I think he has low-end fringe wide receiver 1 upside to elite wide receiver 2 upside here for this season. But we will start to get more information here in this game. One more thing I do want to touch on, though, is I expect Baker Mayfield, a guy who ebbs and flows with his emotions at times, to probably play one of his better games of the season this week. I hate to say this for those of you that are Panthers fans, but this feels like your team's Super Bowl. Because of how much is riding on Baker Mayfield's success for this season, it feels like his ability to produce and succeed in this matchup is a huge deal. Obviously, playing his former team is a big deal emotionally to Baker, and he's done very well in situations like this in the past when he's had to step up to the plate and deliver with a large amount of emotions riding against him personally. So, think back to some of his games in college. Think back to, he played well in his first playoff game against Pittsburgh. Whatever the case might be, he's played well against Cincinnati in the past as well. Point being, Baker could have a huge game here, but this is a situation I'll be watching far longer than just week one. Obviously, I'll be watching all these players, but very, very closely for DJ Moore because I want to see how consistent is the production going to be with Baker Mayfield. Is it something we can depend on a week-to-week basis, or is it much of the same with Sam Darnold, PJ Walker, Teddy Bridgewater, all those guys, Cam Newton that we've seen start games for the Panthers here in the past? So those are 5 wide receivers I am keeping my eyes glued to on the television screen this Sunday afternoon. If you enjoyed, make sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Let me know your thoughts on these players as well as who you're watching this week. We'll be posting a running back episode as well. So don't miss that. Go check that video out right after you've watched this one, or if you've already went ahead and done so, check out our week 1 playlist on our channel here, Sizzle Fantasy Sports. We've got probably over 10, 12, 14 videos now live for week 1 action to help you with your lineups and obviously winning your leagues this season. So thanks so much, guys. I appreciate the heck out of you. Peace out.